Hello everyone. It's really good to have you here. I hope you all had a really peaceful, happy and nourishing Christmas. And I hope that you've got plenty of time in the next few days to actually just take things easy, relax, so that you can start 2016 all energized and full of steam. I want to welcome you to this webinar on on stopping to diet and starting to be healthy. I'm really glad you could make it. My name is Bettina. I'm a health coach and a yoga teacher, and I'm extremely passionate about making a healthy lifestyle easy and fun. It really doesn't need to be complicated, in my opinion, whatsoever. Let me just quickly check whether we've got all the settings like they should be, so that you can actually hear me as well. Yeah. Right, so as far as I can see, everything should be fine. If not, can you quickly flag me in the question and answers if you can't hear me or anything, and then I'll have a look. Otherwise, I'll just continue. It's really great to have you here. So for me, this realization that a healthy lifestyle actually doesn't need to be complicated, that it can be easy and it can be fun, actually came a few years ago. So when I first moved abroad and away from my parents, it resulted in quite a bit of weight gain. Now, for me, that was extremely difficult to deal with because I've always had a lot of feedback that I was always being so sporty, and I've always been complimented on my trimmed looks. So gaining so much weight was extremely hard to deal with. It didn't help that people weren't very complimentary about it, and everyone felt they could actually openly comment on that weight gain. The very worst was, I guess, that something that I never forgot, that was when I was received by my dad, who by all means really didn't mean anything bad by it. He was just joking, but he basically mentioned the phrase hamster cheeks when he welcomed me at the airport one day. So it's like dieting has always been something that was there, and I always felt that I didn't eat right, and I often always felt that I should make more of an effort. And because my mom was a continuous dieter as well, it's really something that I've, that was always at the back of the mind, that I should take better care of with what I eat and restrict myself. So you can imagine that for me, there was also a lot of emotional eating involved in that time, binge eating, and other behaviors that really may have not been ideal from a dietary perspective, but which have been like coping behaviors for certain things going on in my life. So my turnaround in 1 year, when I was studying for my final year exams for my bachelor, I got so stressed at one point that I just decided to stop worrying about food, about what I eat, and that I just focus on the exams for now. So I just ate whatever felt right. I just went with what my gut told me and what I had time for to make at home in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, with no effort whatsoever, I lost nearly all the weight that I put on when I first moved abroad. So that was a very telling moment for me. This is when it really clicked for me, that restrictive eating really makes things just worse, not better, when it comes to healthy lifestyle. And there is much more at play when it comes to our health and weight than just what we eat. Funnily enough, once I just let go of all my ideas of an ideal diet and what I should eat or not, my body would intuitively let me know what it needs. Funnily enough, I was also happy for the first time in a very long time. And funnily enough, I also felt that I actually nourished my body rather than punishing it. After all, who else but myself was responsible for the way I treated my body before through my eating behaviors? So this webinar really is about the mindsets and attitudes when it comes to health, as well as approaching your diet from a point of nourishing your body inside and out. Now, scientifically, there is a few guidelines of what a healthy diet is. And as part of this webinar, I would like to tell you what these are. But even the scientists now actually acknowledge that as long as you move within those guidelines, personalized nutrition is the way forwards. Now, what is actually personalized nutrition? In scientific terms, it actually means that your nutrition is based on factors such as your age and your genetic makeup. However, I'm going to use the term personalized nutrition in a slightly different way. For me, personalized nutrition is actually the food and the diet that helps you nourish your body, and that in turn makes your body thrive. So no energy lags in the day, no fussy thinking, just being and feeling healthy, thriving. And this is for personally, since I've learned how important nutrition is in our daily life, is one of the most important factors for me. It's so important in today's life to be healthy, to nourish our bodies, and to support them to deal with all of the challenges that are being thrown at us. Just think alone about all the stress associated with our life, with our daily lives at the moment. But also think about like the micro stress that really isn't noticeable until years and years afterwards, when we actually age, when our body all of a sudden realizes, actually, maybe we should have done something in our younger years. Anyway, let's get started with the nitty-gritty. So, what is a healthy diet? To do this, I'm actually going to switch over to show you a few PowerPoint slides. Seeing that this is a Google Hangout, I will occasionally check back in with how you're all doing, although I suggest that we keep questions towards the end. I have allocated to do so then. Right, let me quickly switch over. We are going to go. For full screen, start screen share, and you should be looking at my slides now. Excellent, we're there. So now is really the time when people start thinking about New Year resolutions. Nearly everyone comes along. They set their New Year resolutions, and often these New Year resolutions have, in one way or the other, to do with health. Being it doing more exercise, being eating more healthily or generally having a healthier lifestyle. But these New Year resolutions are quite vague, and people often don't think how they're actually implemented. So statistically speaking, most of us are likely to, by the end of the month, have already broken those New Year resolutions, and particularly when it comes to dieting, leaving us feeling like failures and with our self-esteem in tatters. The problem with diets also is that they often work on restricting certain foods. And restricting certain foods also means that we are restricting ourselves, and this then affects our moods and all sorts of things. Let's face it, even if you had successes with diets before, you did not feel better about yourself once you reached a certain weight that you set yourself as a goal. Plus, even if you are successful with restricting your diet, this is never a good idea in the long term, as you will miss out nutritionally unless you replace the foods you eat with other options, and do like the swappings of better, healthier foods very mindfully. Very likely, your New Year's resolutions also reflect what you like to be in the future. And for many, this means having less weight, looking sportier, that kind of things. Just focusing on food for now and not on all other aspects that actually influence what we eat. I'd like you to think about whether cold salads are actually supportive and nourishing to our bodies. It's still cold, the days are still very short, and our work often requires us to be in office during the few daylight hours that we get these days in the Northern Hemisphere. Our bodies naturally crave warmth and rest during this time of the year, so the foods associated with diets are actually extremely restrictive for our bodies and do not support their optimal functioning whatsoever. So really, this is not a good time to diet at all, even though it seems so, because new year, new start, and all this type of thing. Now, the other problem with diets is science has actually confirmed that diets do not work, or if they work, they only work in the short term, and they often leave people gaining more weight than they originally started out with. So it's best to stay away from diet. And I'm hoping that with this webinar, I'm actually showing you another approach to a healthier living rather than dieting per se. Because I'd actually like to argue that if you want to be healthier, don't restrict your diet whatsoever. Health often starts with how we treat our bodies, and in one interpretation, that means the food that actually we put into it. So if you choose the right foods, the foods your body needs to thrive, now and in old age, there is no need to diet. And let's face it, it's so important to prevent diseases of old age. They really cripple us in the Western world and cripple our health systems. We've got one of the most advanced health systems, but it doesn't do anything to preventing the diseases that we've seen popping up so much more with old age in the last 10-20 years. And a lot of it comes down to what we eat. Specific types of breast cancers, for instance, can be prevented just by increasing fruit and vegetable intake. Trans fatty acids, one of the worst fats that you can get with your food, is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular heart disease. think of heart attacks. Sodas and processed red meat have been shown to increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. And of course, don't forget that the WHO, the World Health Organization, recently classified as processed red meats as cancer-causing agents, and red meats probably causing cancer. Alzheimer's, also a disease which is strongly associated with the foods you eat. And often on brain scans, you can actually see that Alzheimer's is a disease that starts 20 or 30 years before the onset of symptoms. So that gives us like actually a really powerful tool to do something for our own health if we choose the foods that are right for us. A lot of the diseases that I just mentioned essentially come down to a few risk factors, and they're generally recognized as metabolic syndrome, and they can develop in a whole range of preventable chronic diseases. For metabolic syndrome to be present, you need to have at least 3 out of these 5 factors on the slides: high blood pressure, high bad cholesterol, high triglycerides, high fasting blood glucose, and you need to be obese, particularly around the waist. So you can see that even though symptoms of a specific disease may not show, you may have this classified as metabolic syndrome, and it's not very uncommon. And a lot of the time, it can also be quite silent. Obesity is the only thing of these 5 indicators on the slide here that actually show us the likelihood of developing a chronic disease by eye. All other things need to be measured through lab tests and through doctors. So if you're not necessarily obese and you don't have any other issues for which you need to get your blood tested for, you're unlikely to pick up of what's going on in your body. But it's exactly these things, these symptoms here: high blood pressure, high bad cholesterol, high triglycerides, high fasting blood glucose, obesity, that can cause or will eventually lead to chronic diseases. So, what to do? Well, diet is a very good thing, but where to start? There's so many diets about. Paleo, vegetarian, South Beach vegan, no or low fat, Weight Watchers, Atkins primal, low carb, high carb. What to choose from? It's a confusing world when it comes to diets. I'm not gonna deny that at all. All of these people that are standing for certain diets all have very good arguments for why you should follow any of these specific diets. But then they also have something to sell with it. So they've got a reason to, wanting to sell this stuff to us. So then it comes down, well, follow something like the no or low fat diet, like the government recommended us for the last 20, 30 years. Well, to be honest, since that recommendation has come into place, Western populations have become heavier and heavier. So whether to follow them, maybe not a great idea either. So this is why I'm suggesting it might actually be interesting to look into personalized nutrition, because it's actually a lot easier to be on a healthy diet than you think. It's a lot easier because there is a no one suit fits all approach. There are no rules, they're just guidelines. Like I said before, science does actually recommend nowadays that the individual approach is a lot better than anything else when it comes to dieting. So, what are these few guidelines then that are actually important for dieting? Well, I personally find the recommendations by the clean eating movement extremely helpful because they more or less cover the whole dietary advice that you get with everything else. They make it simple, they bring it down to a few important points, and they then make it easy for you to actually find what is right for you. So when it comes down to basics, it's best to just eat clean. And some of the premises of clean eating are eating whole foods, avoiding processed foods, eliminating refined sugar, and cooking your own meals. And finally, as part of the whole clean eating, keep a balanced diet. So we're essentially now going to look at what a balanced diet is. It's a combination of healthy fats, of clean proteins, and nutrient-rich carbs. The combination of these three food groups essentially maintains a stable blood sugar. It maintains a good hormonal balance, which has a positive effect on our immune system, our reproductive system, our nervous system, and our digestion. It prevents metabolic syndrome and the chronic diseases that are associated with it. And it can help towards weight loss or weight gain until your body has achieved its own personal balance. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly switch over and check in with you, just see whether everything is going on before we go into the balanced diet options. Let's have a look. So it just looks like I've actually forgotten to actually show you the slides and do the final confirmation. I'll just go through it a moment again, but I can't see any questions so far. So I'm just going to switch back over and then get back to you. We want to go into full screen, start screen share, present to everyone. There you go. We're going to go back to the first few slides. We've been talking about the prevention of diseases and metabolic syndrome, various different options for dietary guidelines, if you so wish, and then essentially came to the conclusion that there is no good ideal approach for everyone. The premises of clean eating are ideal. For a good diet, eat whole foods, avoid processed foods, eliminate refined sugar, cook your own meals, keep a balanced diet. And a balanced diet consists of healthy fats, clean proteins, and nutrient-rich carbs. So, proteins then. They're extremely important because these are the building stones that actually means they keep us full for longer. They provide us with the amino acids, muscle growth, and good immune system functioning. And for vegetarians, it's extremely important to make sure to eat a large variety to get all the different amino acids in. So the mostly plant-based proteins come from beans and lentils. And ideally, that should be the main bulk of your proteins. You can add some meat once or twice a week into your diet. But ideally make sure that it comes from grass-fed animals. The meat is organic and ideally from a local farmer because you really know what you get there. Have high quality fish once or twice a month as well. Make sure again you choose good quality in the sense of don't choose the fish that is high in toxic metals or that has been fed inappropriately because it really affects their meat. And eggs, can I just say, forget about the cholesterol. Eggs are one of the most nutritious foods there are. And dietary cholesterol, so the cholesterol that you eat through food, actually doesn't affect the cholesterol in your blood or the bad cholesterol in your blood. It's other factors that actually lead to an imbalance between good and bad cholesterol in your blood. Just a brief word about dairy products. A lot of dairy products are actually processed foods, including cheese. And as a part of the clean eating diet, we ideally want to avoid processed foods, meaning that you probably may want to reduce your consumption of dairy products. Milk, I tend to stay away from milk. I'm not very good with dairy products anyway, but one of the main reasons to stay away from milk is really because it contains a lot of nutrients and growth hormones that are ideal for a calf, for a growing calf, but not necessarily for an adult human, so an adult organism from a different species. We wouldn't drink breast milk beyond 6 to 18 months either, so it doesn't make sense for us to use the breast milk of a different organism. However, saying that, if you do have milk, I suggest to you go back to full fat. Most likely you're not doing the full fat version at the moment because of a government initiative in the last 20-30 years, which has basically told us to avoid high fat products. Well, as it turns out, fats are actually extremely important in our bodies. Again, with the proteins, they help us in keeping to feel full, but more importantly, they are extremely important for our nervous system functioning and hormone regulation, particularly for women. So you don't want to miss out of them. Most of your fats you want to get from plant-based sources like nut and seeds oil, olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado. It's also important to get omega-3s in. At the moment, we're really lacking omega-3s in our diet. And you can get that from fatty fish, linseeds, or chia seeds. Linseed oil is one of the best omega-3 fatty acid sources that you can get. So if you see linseed oil somewhere, it'll actually be ideal in a cold pressed version. The one thing that I would suggest with regard to fats, and I rarely do that about any food group, is to stay away from trans fats. They have been indicated in all sorts of quite major diseases such as cancer. And you can find them in processed foods, cakes, pizza, hamburgers, fries, cookies, donuts, ice cream, bread, sauces, margarines. And you'll also recognize them as hydrogenated oils. So really stay away from that. And finally, as part of our balanced meals, we want to bring in nutrient-rich carbohydrates. And this can be in the form of complex carbohydrates, ideally in the form of complex carbohydrates that are quite nutrient dense. So either whole grains or vegetables. And compounds in this colorful range of foods are actually extremely important in helping to prevent a whole range of chronic diseases and also cancer. You'll also notice, if you are a foodie like me and really passionate about your food, eating lots of vegetables means you get to eat a whole lot more. So if you're first starting on a clean eating diet and vegetables are actually part of the main meal and not just a side dish, you'll notice that to actually stay fuller for longer and to keep you going, you may have to increase your portion sizes quite incredibly, which I personally was really quite happy about. So carbohydrates have had a really bad reputation for, well, since Atkins really. If you know a bit about your digestion, you know that even complex carbohydrates actually break down in simple carbohydrates. And the simple carbohydrates is really what we need to look out for. We do not want our carbohydrates in the simple form when we eat it. Simple carbohydrates are usually sugars of one form or the others. And it's come to light more and more in recent years that sugar, not fat, is actually the driver behind today's obesity epidemic. Sugar can have a huge effect on our body, causes huge hormone imbalances in our digestive, and then has a knock-on effect on our digestive, nervous, immune, and reproductive system. It also interacts strongly with stress hormones. So on top of the stress we've got nowadays in today's diet, it's, it really is something you want to be thinking about quite carefully when it comes to your sugar consumption. Indeed, when rats in a scientific experiment were exposed to choices of sugar and cocaine, it's been shown that sugar causes the brain to be overstimulated and caused the rats to choose sugar over cocaine, which turned out to be 8 times more addictive than the cocaine. And the scientist suspects that what the sugar does, it may potentially override our self-control mechanisms and so lead to addiction. And there is now a lot of evidence that this is the case, and there is a lot of scientists who actually starting to lobby against the amount of sugar that is in our foods nowadays, particularly all the processed foods and a lot of the ready meals. So when I started speaking about dieting earlier on, I'd like you to maybe for next year start thinking about longer term rather than just a short term diet. Think about making it a journey to a healthy you. Think about really starting to discover what works for you and what doesn't work for you. This journey to a healthy you is actually incredibly rewarding, and you'll soon find that it takes you beyond initially just wanting to get physically fitter or healthier. The other thing about this journey to a healthy you is actually it's so much fun. You get to explore a whole world of amazing whole foods. Like, have you ever tried a sweet potato? It's such an amazing alternative to just the normal potato. It's actually a completely different plant family, so it's completely different nutrients that we get from it. Or have you ever tried Jerusalem artichokes? They're incredibly good for your gut microbiome, which now has also been implicated with your overall health. It's a completely different topic. I could possibly speak about it another day, one day. Such a new diet is actually amazing just to try out and explore different things. Millet. Have you ever heard of millet? It's actually an ancient grain, really quite yummy. go little nutrient powerhouses, and chia seeds. They're so good for your omega-3 levels in your body. And balanced meals don't need to be boring at all. So for instance, this is a whole food breakfast that I quite regularly have. I love it. And everything is whole foods. There's no processed stuff in it. There's no sugar in it. You'll find that I've got some greens, that I've got some avocado for healthy fats. I've got some fried mushrooms and some steamed sweet potato. I've also got some fried egg and fried tomatoes. So I'm already covering here, a large, colourful group of vegetables that you should cover in the day. Or how about some chia seed pudding for breakfast over some cut up fruit? I think I had pear and apple in that bowl, and then just top it with a whole range of superfoods that you've got available, like goji berries, cocoa nibs, hemp seeds, and mulberries. Kale salad. You get the greens are one of the most underrepresented colors in our diet. There is a whole bowl of kale salad with an extra pear, pomegranate seeds, and coconut and hemp seeds. Or how about that's something a leftover plate that I made with some millet in the background. I've got some raw sauerkraut with it here on the left, and I'd roasted a whole bunch of vegetables that I had leftovers, added some chickpeas in that, half a tin of chickpeas that I had left, and then covered it generously with some sprouts and chopped parsley. This is a bean chili, and I added some bean chili with a whole load of vegetables, and I added extra avocado on top so that I could get some extra fats to make it a balanced meal. I'm Irish, so this is not actually something that I've cooked myself, but I really like this idea, and I do make cuscetti myself a lot. Now, what are cuscettas? These are the little ribbons that you see on the plate there, and all it is, it's like a spiralized courgette. So it's basically pasta made of courgette. So you've got a whole bowl of whole foods there already. You don't have to worry about using normal wheat pasta made with white flours and processed to the last thing. Add a few shrimps on top and fry in olive oil. And again, you've got the healthy oils and you've got your clean proteins in the meal. And bringing it back to making it fun, I discovered the other day making chicory soup that I could use the chicory leaves, the raw chicory leaves, to actually soup up my spoon up my soup. It was the best fun that I had in quite a while, I must say. So healthy living is way more than just food. Now, food does play a main role, but as a health coach, I'm also used to actually looking way beyond food. Clean eating is amazing and has amazing health benefits, but it also can become quite stressful if you get too fixated. For instance, in social situations where you don't have control over what you get. Who doesn't know that situation? Here, eating out with friends, or just all the Christmas indulgence we had. So a week of eating healthy can literally be counterbalanced by you getting stressed out over such an event. So in that case, I often say, well, why don't you prescribe to the 90-10 diet, which is, by the way, the only diet I believe in. And that means 90% eating clean and 10% just not being too worried. A big part of a healthy lifestyle is actually nurturing you as a whole being. Clean eating addresses nurturing your body, but having a meal with friends and being in good company nourishes you on an emotional level. So just acknowledge that you need that as well in your life and go with the flow. If you are too worried You can always suggest a restaurant where you know there are healthier alternatives available. Or you can eat the food with a mindful and healthy attitude where you just make sure to chew your food correctly and taking your time with it. So let's just quickly go over over what the premise of clean eating actually is. It's a plant-based diet, not vegan, just plant-based. It incorporates clean proteins and high-quality fats and oils, and complex carbohydrates from vegetables and whole grains. Ideally, when you want to cover a large variety of foods that have been harvested regionally and seasonally. You want to have home-cooked foods that are cooked from scratch and avoiding processed foods, including dairy and meat products. And you also want to avoid refined sugar. What comes with that is that essentially you start taking responsibility for how food is making you feel. So it really depends on you building up a relationship with your own body to figure out what foods are good for you and which are not. But again, that comes with time, and it shouldn't deter you from trying to work towards a healthier diet. So this is a good point just to emphasize again, there is no ideal diet. Just the diet where you start eating from a place of self-love and foods that nourish your body and mind and make you thrive. So I'm just going to quickly switch over again. Hello, I'm back again. This is actually a really important point that I want to make with regard to starting to eat from a place of self-love and foods that nourish your body and mind and that make you thrive. I'm going to ask you something now. What is your attitude towards yourself, towards your body? Are you feeling ashamed of your body? Is there a lot of negative self-talk where you're putting yourself down for your dietary choices or the way you look? If you have made what you feel is a bad dietary choice, do you just go on punishing your poor body even more, which is doing the best to digest the food you feed it, and which may not be the best for your body? Do you eat for emotional reasons? So these are a lot of things that actually may well affect how you eat and the foods that you choose to eat. So the reason why I'm suggesting personalized nutrition rather than dieting is because once you start reconnecting with your body and you're starting to reconnect with yourself, you will be able to start figuring out what foods are good for you and what foods are not. So you've got the basics of a clean diet now. Now it's time to actually start taking note of what foods are nourishing for your body and which not. And it's also important that you start to accept and praise yourself where you're at now and not a potential future you that is everything you'd like to be. Particularly if this future you is not the ideal for you. So one of the things that I do as a health coach is helping people figuring out what is ideal for them. Not an ideal that is put out there from the media or by the media or by your own expectations, what you'd like to be, but really embracing where you're at and how this body of yours can thrive with the foods that you eat. So what is ideal for you food-wise and lifestyle-wise? And this is really a big one. Often the food that we eat is secondary to the situation that we're in a given moment, secondary to how we feel, secondary to what our stress levels are. So start paying attention to actually what affects you while you're eating. And always remember, and I'm just going to switch over to a few more slides now for a moment. Start screen share. There we go. So what I really like to bring across in this webinar is, with diets, often what you do is like a whole lifestyle change that's unsustainable because you're setting way too big a goal. It's important to start small and to start building on these small things. Just remember, it doesn't matter how slowly you progress with your health, nutrition, restoration, whatever your focus is, you're still way ahead of where you would be if you had never started. I absolutely love this saying from Dr. Libby, or this quote from Dr. Libby, because the fact is, you're probably a lot further already by looking into other options than diet than if you just chose to follow another restricted meal plan that leaves you miserable and like a failure at the end. Excuse me. What I like also, what I'd like you to take home after this webinar is that every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or you're fighting it. So start making choices that actually are nourishing for your body, not just now, not just for the next 1 or 2 hours, but that keep you going in 10, 20, 30 years time. Because fact is, by the time in another 10, 20, 30 years, our healthcare system will be broken. And I'm not sure whether it'll be easy to actually look out for after us. It'll always be there to prevent the worst, but it's not going to be able to restore us back to that optimal health. We have to take the responsibility to do so ourselves. So if you're interested in learning a bit more about this, but also learning, taking small steps and making doable progress, working towards doable goals, you might be interested in actually taking part in a program that I've set up. It's the Kickstart for 2016, and essentially it tries to educate you on the basics of an easy and wholesome nutrition, and why not calories, but the nutrient density of food matters. It also includes a whole range of exercises and various recipes that help you to implement the knowledge that you have gained to make changes for long-term success. You'll get daily emails throughout January, so 31 emails with seasonal recipes that are dairy and gluten-free, mostly vegetarian. You also get access to a private Facebook group and various tips and tricks to use and really gain knowledge. 31 emails over 31 days for €31, absolute bargain. And you can contact me at bettina@avibrantlife.eu to sign up for the program. And you'll also find some more information on my website. If you're not quite ready yet because you think that right away the start of 2016 is too soon, I have now, due to popular demand, also set a second starting date. So There is one lot starting on the 1st of January 2016 and another lot of people who can start on the 15th of January. Right, I'm going to now switch back over to the normal camera. You should be able to see me in a moment. Hello again. Any questions from anyone? Anything you'd like to know about the presentation? Anything you'd like to know about the basics of clean eating? Anything you'd like to know about the program that I've mentioned? Now is your time to get in there and check out whether there is anything that you're not clear about, anything that I might not have explained very well, anything that, I don't know, interests you beyond what we've just spoken about. Got nothing so far. Well, in that case, I'm very happy because it means I've been clear. I've told you everything that I wanted to tell you, and I've covered everything that I wanted to cover as part of this webinar. That just leaves me to say thank you very much again for viewing. I really hope this was useful for you. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that you're reconsidering dieting in 2016 and are crossing it off your New Year's resolution list if it was there in the first place. And get in touch if you want to take part in the 31-day program. It's a really lovely little program. I had some good feedback so far. People have really enjoyed it. And you may find that it may also be helpful for you. Get in contact at bettina@avibrantlife.eu if you want to take part. Or even if you just want to give me some feedback on this webinar, or if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me and I'll make sure to get back to you. That really leads me to say thank you so much for watching. I wish you an amazing rest of 2015. Take the next few days to rest, relax, nourish your body so that 2016 can be greeted with energy and lots of potential. May 2016 be your best year yet. Take care of yourself. Have a lovely evening. Bye.